Good afternoon. A man is fighting for his life in hospital after he was stabbed near Queen and Jarvis early this morning.
Police say they are looking for a female suspect. CTV's Beth Macdonell is live at the scene with the details. Beth.
Andrea, Nathan, Queen Street East between Jarvis and Church just reopened to traffic. Toronto police were here all morning. There were more than a dozen evidence markers on the street, and there was a significant amount of blood that needed to be cleaned up. The violence broke out shortly before 2 in the morning. That's when police say a man in his 30s was stabbed and rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition, while the female suspect took off on foot. You'll notice an orange bike in the middle of the crime scene. Police say they don't have any information about that bike, if it was being used by the victim, the suspect, or someone else. So far, they say there is also no information on a weapon or if a weapon was recovered. However, they do say it appears the victim and suspect were known to each other in some capacity, and this was not a random attack. Here's what people who are living and working in the area are saying.
I am shocked. I'm just nervous. I don't feel safe anymore around this area. And yeah, it's just disturbing to see this.
This is so scary. Like, it's 10 a.m. I was not expecting to see like the police cars outside my house. Well, you just told me that they haven't caught the person, so it's a little scared. I just am going to tell my roommates to be careful.
The area has a lot of homeless people, but I'm not accusing them of anything. And I heard the violence is all over Toronto.
It's crazy how we are becoming worse and worse. It's devastating.
The female suspect is described as wearing a black coat, white sweater, blue jeans with white shoes and a white toque. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Reporting live, I'm Beth Macdonell. Andrea, Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. And police are looking for 3 suspects following a shooting in North York overnight. It happened in a residential complex in the Wilson and 400 area just after midnight. Police say they found a man in his 30s suffering from a gunshot wound inside one of the homes. Paramedics say he was taken to hospital in serious condition. Investigators are now looking for 3 suspects in a dark-colored vehicle. Anybody with information is asked to contact police. And fire crews were called to a fire on Upper Canada Drive near Bayview and the 401 around 3:45 this morning. Toronto Fire says this was a basement fire that spread to the first floor. They say it appears no one was in the home, and firefighters are still on scene.
York Police is set to provide an update into the murder of a father of 4 in Vaughan. 46-year-old Aleem Faruqi was shot and killed in front of his family during a home invasion on August 31st near Andretta Drive and Barron Street. Police have said at least 3 suspects were involved in the shooting and robbery. York Police Chief Jim McSween will be taking part in today's update, which is set for 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, a high-stakes meeting is set for today as the G7 foreign ministers gather in Niagara-on-the-Lake. It'll be the first time Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio since President Trump called off trade talks with Canada. That's coming up a little later in the newscast.
More news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Really not a bad morning. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. And Lindsay, I was walking the dog, and it was a little milder than I was expecting, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, that's sort of the story of today, Andrea. It is going to be a milder day. Any precip that we get this afternoon is much more likely to fall as rain as opposed to snow. But there is still snow on the ground in many areas, so it could end up being a bit of a slushy, melty mess this afternoon. Current satellite and radar shows wet weather predominantly north, west, and east of here, but in the GTA, we've got the possibility of some showers today. Winds are coming out of the west. They're not overly gusty right now, but we are expecting them to strengthen through the afternoon and into the evening. It's 4 degrees right now. That's also our forecast daytime high, so a milder day than the last few, certainly, and the next couple of days are going to be even warmer than this. We'll take you through a full look at the forecast coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Top diplomats from the G7 are gathering in Niagara today. It'll be the first time Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio since President Trump called off trade talks with Canada. And CTV's Rachel Aiello joins us from Niagara on the Lake with more on this. Rachel, there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, there certainly is, and we've actually just got some new information, Nathan, from Minister Anand's office indicating that if we were expecting trade to come up, it isn't going to. That is what they are positioning anyways. The line that we are getting is that they view the trade file is more Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc's purview to deal with his counterpart, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. So in terms of what we're watching for in this conversation, it doesn't seem like Anand would be the one to initiate any sort of attempt to rebuild or reestablish the dialogue with the Americans to try to get those trade talks going again. Now, we'll see if U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio raises the issue, but otherwise it's looking like this one opportunity that we were all eyes on board watching for to see what could come in terms of trade isn't going to be something that materializes here at the G7.
So if trade is off topic, what are we hoping comes out of this summit?
Yeah, so the ministers from the G7, as well as several other nations that Canada has invited to take part in these meetings, are talking about the support for Ukraine, reaffirming that. We heard from Anand earlier this morning, leveling new sanctions on Russia. These officials are also talking about critical minerals and the push to develop critical minerals across the world, the role Canada and other countries can play in that, and then maritime security and prosperity. So those are the focus points of this G7 Foreign Ministers Summit, but really coming out of this at the end of the day, the pressure is on Canada to make some tangible outcomes, see what they can prove that they were able to get all of these countries to agree on, because as Anand said from the outset of this summit, all of these are global challenges and they require a global response.
Yeah, still lots of important issues at stake there. CTV's Rachel Aiello in Niagara on the Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
The first major housing co-op project in Toronto has broken ground in Scarborough.
It's part of the federal government's promise to solve the housing crisis. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live in Scarborough with the details. Raheem.
Hey, Andrea, this parcel of land behind me is part of a new co-op housing project that's going to be built in Scarborough, just north of Markham and Eglinton roads. When phase 1 is complete, it will be a 21-story tower with 245 units, which will be rent controlled and available below market value. Now, this parcel of land actually used to be owned by the City of Toronto. It was then sold to a nonprofit housing developer. Now the federal government has kicked in $137 million to get this project off the ground. This is going to include a mix of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments, as well as some townhomes. Federal officials, they're touting this co-op as part of their broader plan to support affordable and equitable housing. When this entire development is complete, it will include 4 residential towers and nearly 800 new homes, which will be a mix of co-op housing and home ownership through assistance programs. Have a listen to those who are on hand this morning.
Every city has its own housing needs. Toronto's are specific. There's no one solution to creating more housing supply. But I know, as a proud co-op kid, that more non-market housing is certainly what the system requires.
Future phases of the Cedars will also include attainable home ownership for people who need extra help to buy. Through the Options for Homes program, eligible buyers will be able to access up to 15% in down payment support.
And it's expected that the construction on the first tower will be complete sometime in 2028. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. Food Banks Mississauga is launching its holiday food drive, and the organization says this year the need is greater than ever. The holiday drive is aiming to raise $3 million after the service saw a record-breaking 500,000 visits last year. This month also marks 1 year since the city of Mississauga declared food insecurity an emergency. The organization says it has seen a 20% year-over-year increase in use, a first in its nearly 40-year history. The Holiday Drive campaign runs until January 9th.
The first blast of winter this weekend was the city's first test of snow clearing this season.
City Council is meeting today, and winter maintenance is among the big items up for discussion. CTV's Natalie Johnson is live with more from City Hall. Natalie.
Okay, we have the motion amendment by Councillor Sack. Hi, Nathan. Well, as we head into the winter months, it is once again quickly becoming top of mind for residents following the major failure by the city last year to clear up all of the snow that fell in February. As you'll recall, over the course of about 7 days, some 50 centimeters of snow fell at that time, and the city simply couldn't keep up. Many of the sidewalks and local roads remained unplowed for days, having a major impact on the ability of Torontonians to get around by foot, by bike, even by transit. An investigation into what went wrong highlighted a number of significant issues. Some snowplows broke down at that critical time because staff had allowed privately contracted companies to use the wrong machines despite the terms of the contracts. Snow was being plowed but not removed. The mayor blaming contracts signed in the past for that. And there were reporting discrepancies in which the system showed that some areas had been cleared when in fact they had been reburied or missed in the first place. Mayor Chow was asked this morning what will be different this coming winter.
The biggest difference is local residents are able, through 311, help us. We can then monitor better with a team of monitors to make sure that private contractors are doing what they say they are doing. Last year, the contractors said, oh, we plowed the street. Did it? Well, no, you didn't.
This is just the latest stop in Mayor Chow's version of Shaggy's It Wasn't Me tour. Nothing is ever her fault. She, when someone comes into a leadership position, they normally review operations and then they make changes before the disaster happens. With Mayor Chow, she waits till after the disaster happens and then she blames everyone else.
One would think that when you call 311 at any time for snow, that somebody's actually taking your complaint and sending it to transportation services. That wasn't happening. It was shocking to find out that they were banking all the calls till the end of the day. That was wrong. It's real time now.
I think we're going to make a real improvement in coming years. The thing we have to remember, though, is that we're going to have heavy years and light years in terms of snow. And whatever we build into our budget, it's going to cost money.
And so up for debate here today is a new strategy to ensure that the failure of last year doesn't happen again. The mayor promising more monitoring, better contracts moving forward, and faster action. This will all get underway here in the chamber this afternoon. We'll bring you the latest tonight at 5 and 6 o'clock. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, inside to you.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Prime Minister Mark Carney set to unveil the second phase of nation-building projects tomorrow, and CTV News has learned a few items that will be on that list. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver standing by live in Ottawa with those details. Annie, what more are we learning about tomorrow's announcement from the Prime Minister?
Hi, Nathan. Well, tomorrow the Prime Minister will be in Prince Rupert, BC, and that's where we're expecting him to announce the next list of major projects. There were 5 that were previously announced at September, and now we're expecting at least 4 more to be unveiled tomorrow. We know that one of them is expected to be the Crawford Nickel Mine just north of Timmins. There's also the Sisson Mine in New Brunswick. That's a tungsten mine, so those two are both critical minerals. Then there's a hydroelectric dam in Iqaluit. Iqaluit is currently largely using diesel. And so the goal of this would be to create a hydroelectric dam to use cleaner energy to transition the city of Iqaluit off diesel and on to more hydroelectric power. Then there's also going to be the Sil-ism. So this is an LNG export terminal in British Columbia. So these are the 4 projects that the Prime Minister is expected to reveal more details about tomorrow when it comes to how this new major projects office is expected to kind of take these projects on, help them get through the regulatory process faster, speed them up so that these projects can now get underway.
You know, speeding up always sounds good, but what about treaty rights? Could these projects face opposition?
Some of these projects, in fact, Nathan, are already facing opposition. So, for example, the Sil-ism LNG export terminal, that one actually has 2 different court challenges going on currently by 2 different First Nations. The Sisson Mine in New Brunswick as well, that one has also faced about a decade of hurdles so far, environmental hurdles as well as First Nation treaty right hurdles. What's unclear here is how this new major projects office is going to deal with some of these environmental and and First Nation challenges that are currently before the courts, as there still is a duty to consult. So what the Major Projects Office is aiming to do is take some of these projects, like the ones that are going to be announced tomorrow, help streamline the regulatory process, guide them through some of those hurdles that there are in terms of actually paperwork, the consultations, the environmental assessments, help them along that process. But what still remains unclear is exactly what will happen when there are court challenges and, again, duty to consult, especially with First Nations who have say in certain regions of the country over projects on their domain. The other thing, though, that's important to note here is that the Major Projects Office was just started up in August, and since then they've had hundreds of applications for projects to consider. So it does seem highly unlikely that the federal government is going to be suggesting projects like these four that it doesn't think are going to be able to reach that final hurdle and actually be projects that can be completed.
All right, CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
A new poll is out this week, and it's looking at what Canadians think about the recently tabled federal budget. The Leisure survey shows about 30% of respondents approve of the budget. Only 15% expect it will have a positive impact on their household. More than twice that number are expecting a negative hit. About 1,500 adult Canadians responded to the online poll.
Some areas of Quebec are digging out after a snowstorm that caught many people off guard, including Environment Canada. It didn't expect the snow band to shift, dumping 20 centimeters on Montreal. And that's nearly 4 times the forecast. CTV's Denise Roberts has the details.
Montrealers got out their shovels and, in some cases, generators. The first major snowstorm of the season caught many off guard, including Hydro-Quebec.
We were expecting precipitations, mostly in the form of rain, but we did receive snow instead.
About 20 centimeters of snow fell across the city overnight, weighing down branches and downing power lines, leaving nearly 400,000 hydro customers without power this morning. The storm's severity also surprised forecasters.
It's like what we call an Alberta clipper, and so it moves very quickly. It hits and runs. But this one kind of slowed down.
Climatologist David Phillips says this system stayed for 50 hours and included just about everything from snow to freezing rain to ice pellets. But he says what made it worse was the temperature and the leaves still on the trees.
What ends up is the snow becomes very wet, sticky, like glue.
In Hudson, fallen power lines forced the closure of a major intersection. Traffic was detoured through Liane-Marie Durocher's parking lot.
Rush hour this morning was very, very tough. There was a lot of angry people. There was a school bus that ended up in the ditch that had to be towed.
And with no power, there's no business for the day.
There's no mixing of paint. There is no shaking of gallons.
The storm also meant many schools couldn't open, though for some, that was good news.
For my son to be able to have a snow day and run around in the snow and make a snowman and a snow fort, I think, you know, those are the nice things.
Phillips says the timing of the storm isn't unusual. Montreal usually has its first snowfall by November 6th. And he says you should enjoy it while it's here.
By the weekend, this will be all gone.
Denise Roberts, CTV News.
The longest government shutdown in history could soon be over. The Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives has called the chamber back into session.
We believe the long national nightmare will be over tonight. It was completely and utterly foolish and pointless in the end, as we said all along. I just want to apologize to any Americans who are out there who still have flight cancellations or delays today. I want to apologize to the many American families who were made to go hungry over the last several weeks, our troops and other federal employees who are wondering where their next paycheck would come from. All of that's on the Democrats.
The Democrats would argue that the vast majority of them are expected to vote against the measure because it does not include an extension of Affordable Care Act tax credits. But the bill is expected to pass the Republican-led chamber. The House will vote on the legislation to reopen the government that the Senate passed on Monday night. U.S. President Donald Trump has signaled he will sign it into law.
With the holiday season approaching, we're learning that A Christmas Classic is one of the Pope's favorite films.
It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart from 1946.
The Pontiff named his 4 favorite movies. The others are the 1965 smash hit The Sound of Music, 1980's Ordinary People and Roberto Benigni's 1997 film Life is Beautiful, which earned the filmmaker a Best Actor Oscar.
Flu season is here, and with cases already climbing, experts are warning Canada could be in for a few tough months. CTV's Scott Hurst is standing by with more. Scott, now health experts are saying we could be in for a tougher flu season this year with a new strain on the rise. What can you tell us?
Andrea, good afternoon. The concern is about the current circulation of the H3N2 strain. It's the time of year, of course, you're likely starting to hear a lot more coughing and wheezing as the temperatures plummet. This is when flu cases often go upwards, and the concern this year, particular leading into this flu season, is the potential for a severe strain, concerns about fewer people getting the vaccine protection, and a vaccine itself that may not be an ideal fit. It could be a recipe for a bad flu season in Canada. While cases remain relatively low at this time, being so early in the season, they are slowly trending upwards. The latest national numbers showing more than 430 confirmed cases of influenza in the past week. That's about 2% of tests being positive. Here's more from Dr. Fahad Razak from St. Michael's Hospital about the current strain of the H3N2 and the concerns over it.
The specific strain we're worried about this year is called H3N2. It tends to have more severe seasons. And so that's the worry, that the Australian data plus the strain that's circulating suggests that Canada could have a very tough season.
Andrea, you heard him mention the data that came out of Australia. That country posted record-breaking flu numbers, so much so that the Royal Australian College of GPs put out a warning that this should be a wake-up call amid vaccination rates stalling.
Now, Scott, you know, we've had a few people already out in our newsroom, and health experts have indicated the vaccines currently in distribution may not be a good match to defend against the emerging H3N2 strain. So how important is it still to get vaccinated?
It may not be the ideal match, but according to medical health professionals, still very important to get vaccinated, not just for yourself, but for the health community as a whole, to create less of a burden potentially on hospitals and ERs. Here's more from an infectious disease researcher on the importance of still getting vaccinated.
There'll be some degree of protection, and the degree of protection against the most serious outcomes is always the best. So with mismatch, you might still get sick, but you might be protected from, for example, hospitalization or pneumonia, or the more severe consequences of infection.
And Andrea, as I mentioned, just highlighting what we're hearing from the medical health community, importance of vaccination, not just for yourself, but for the entire population. And from the medical perspective, potentially during a bad flu season, along with other respiratory viruses like RSV and COVID, it could add greater strain to hospitals and emergency departments already under a significant amount of stress, Andrea.
CTV Scott Hurst. Stay healthy, Scott. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrea.
Will do.
Training camp is underway for the Toronto Sceptres as they gear up for their third season.
Their first preseason game is Sunday, and as CTV's Sean Leathong reports, the team has its eyes on the Walter Cup.
At the start of training camp, Toronto Sceptres star Natalie Spooner says the third year in the Professional Women's Hockey League is about growth.
I think every year it's like you want to make it bigger and better than it was the year before. And I think after the first year, we thought, wow, how is the second year going to be even able to keep up with the first year? But then we saw the second year and all the, the games that sold out so fast and what we were able to do in that year. So I think, now with expansion, and there's just so much more excitement too.
This year, the PWHL is expanding from 6 to 8 teams, adding clubs in Vancouver and Seattle.
The PWHL is expanding, and that's just so good for our sport in general. I think the more teams there are, there's more fans, there's more accessibility around the whole world.
Toronto lost Sarah Nurse to free agency and 3 more players in the expansion draft.
It definitely feels like there's some changes, but heading into season 3, I think we've built a really solid foundation over the last 2 years.
There are 15 returning players from last season. For a team that wanted to win the ultimate prize, they'll be working to gel quickly.
We have so many new players on our team and in our locker room that I think our identity is going to be something that we're working on here over the next few weeks.
But as the league grows and rosters change quickly, players who have worked so hard to get this league off the ground say now is only about that one goal.
I think it's a win now league. Year 1, you're just taking it all in. You always want to win, but year 1, you're just taking it in. Year 2, you're hungrier, and you still don't win the Walter Cup. Year 3, you want to win it, so you're going to put everything out there to win.
Obviously, our goal coming in is we want to win the Walter Cup. We've, fallen short the last 2 years, but I think we also realized that the start of our last 2 seasons has got away from us.
And the Sceptres will have to move quickly as training camp is just a week and a half long, with the season starting on November 21st against the two-time defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
So it's been a snowy November week, to say the least. We, of course, had all that snow on Sunday, a little more on Monday. Here's a look at how much some communities picked up yesterday. Just a trace to a couple of centimeters, but a fresh dusting on top of what had already fallen. Now, going forward, it looks like the focus will become more rain as the temperature rises. A lot of that snow is going to be melted by day's end in many areas. Coming up, we're going to talk about your weekend forecast. At this point, it's looking a little cloudy, but temperatures should be milder still. Details after the break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. And you were saying this morning you took the dog out and it wasn't so bad.
It wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. It was almost, if we had this temperature, in the summer earlier, it would be awful. But after that cold spell, it's like, oh, this is fantastic. Everyone's saying hello. Everyone's waving. People actually had a smile on their face this morning.
So you're saying it was like November again, the November we expect.
There you go. Yes, that we know and love.
Yes, exactly. Wow, a memorable first week of and a bit of November, I will say, especially after such a warm October. It's been pretty memorable, but most of us are going to say goodbye to any snow that's left on the ground. As we progress through the next couple of days, there's the chance of some rain. Still going to be quite windy, though. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Even today, though, we had a little bit of snow once again. The early morning hours looked like this in the Oshawa area. I know it's been a real juxtaposition of the fall leaves, pumpkins on some porches, and then this wet, fluffy snow impacting some areas. Again, though, any of this wet snow has now transitioned over to rain in most areas. Let's take another look at the satellite and radar. Of course, blue is indicative of snow. The green, we get into more in the way of rainfall. And that is happening across most of southern Ontario, certainly the southwest, where it's traditionally a little bit milder. And as this disturbance makes its way eastward, we will continue to see a few lake effect bands, but again, this time rain showers as opposed to measurable snow. Still a few wet flurries in some areas. There's a look at heading into Thursday. We're likely to encounter at least some precipitation, but also a little more in the way of sun tomorrow compared to today. It's pretty gloomy out there in most communities today, and winds are going to strengthen as we make our way through the afternoon. Tomorrow is going to be another windy day before things start to settle down on Friday. And for the most part, winds are coming from the west, bit of a southwest flow, and then by Friday, northwest winds. We're now at 5 degrees in the city of Toronto, or more specifically at Pearson. So this is an improvement. It's 6 degrees in Wyerton, 9 in the Windsor area. After days hovering at or below freezing, it might feel pretty nice if you're hoping to venture out this afternoon. So we've already surpassed our forecast daytime high of 4 degrees. A reminder, though, that 8 is the average temperature this time of year. There's your evening at a glance. Again, that chance of showers, still some windy weather. Overnight low where we expected to be at about 1 degree. And then tomorrow, chance of showers, high of about 7 degrees, which is near normal. Might still be a little bit cooler in some areas, but again, milder than it's been. And throughout the day tomorrow, we've got that chance of showers, but also hopefully a little more in the way of sun. Here's the 7-day forecast. We want to talk about the weekend. It looks to be mostly cloudy, but seasonal highs near 8 degrees. Chance of showers Saturday night and into Sunday. That's your look at the weather for now. Andrea, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, a major development in a W5 investigation into an online network of men who secretly drug and videotape the abuse of their wives and girlfriends.
After infiltrating the group and confirming the identity of a man who befriended her online, Avery Haynes shared evidence with police in Switzerland. And she tells us what happened next.
On a porn website, dozens of videos of a middle-aged woman who appears to be drugged. At times, her abuser shows his face obscured by a mask. We nickname him Henri. Offering to be my online mentor, he sends me lengthy emails describing in horrific detail the crimes he commits weekly against his unsuspecting wife. Eventually, he shares his first name, where he lives, and his profession. With just that information, I did a search on LinkedIn, and there was one hit. The glasses and facial structure appear to match, but we need more to be sure. Typing the man's full name into YouTube, this wedding video from 2 years ago pops up. His bride is the same woman in the abuse videos. Scouring through Facebook photos, we match a ring that she wears with the ring on the hand of the woman being abused. We also match the room in the videos with an apartment in Geneva, Switzerland. In his emails, Henri describes his wife as his object. I had a lot of fun with my wife, transformed into a toy. Your doll will do everything you want, guaranteed. He reveals that he's been drugging women for decades. None of the women I sedated suffered any after effects, none.
He's pretty much laid himself open to you. He's given you the doses, he's given you the MO, given you his important insights to his mindset.
Veteran Canadian criminal profiler Jim Van Allen analyzed my email conversations with Henri.
Henri really matches the overall expectations of a drug-facilitated sexual assault offender. Personable, charming, manipulative, a flare of narcissism.
In his emails, Henri shares explicit details of increasingly invasive and dangerous ways of drugging his wife. He also reveals that she has sleep apnea. He writes to me, well, she has respiratory arrest very rarely. So what? We don't die from it.
He's playing with fire here. He's not a doctor, but he thinks he's very bright. And he figures he has 20 years experience in sedation. He deserves to get caught. He needs to be caught.
Believing her life is at risk, we share our information with police in Geneva, Switzerland. And now, months later, they confirm an arrest on charges of rape and sexual coercion. The suspect is in pre-trial detention. Criminal profiler Van Allen says men who carry out drug-facilitated sexual assault are not easily cured of their deviancy.
Ain't no pill gonna cure this ill. Behind bars is gonna stop it.
We're not releasing the suspect's name in order to protect the identity of his alleged victim, his wife. Avery Haynes, CTV News, Toronto.
And in part 2 of Avery's report, a survivor exposes the identity of a man who secretly drugged, sexually assaulted, and videotaped her for years as a teen. That's tonight on CTV National News. And we do have more news after the break. Stay with us.
Parents in Ontario who've been enjoying lower childcare costs over the last couple of years, thanks to the federal government's new program, can plan their next year with a little more certainty. As CTV's Heather Centerman tells us, the Ontario government and the feds have agreed to extend the program.
Kitchener parent Kylie White's 2.5-year-old goes to Rising Oaks' newest center at St. Patrick Catholic School. But it wasn't easy securing a spot.
Yeah, it was hard to find a spot in daycare anywhere. We went through several care providers before we ended up here.
The Ontario and federal government agreed to a 1-year extension on the $10 a day program, which is a relief for some parents.
I think it's great that there's a 1-year extension, but I think there needs to be more than a 1-year extension. Hopefully it can be a permanent thing at some point.
The CEO of Rising Oaks says the 1-year extension is good for providers as well.
It really is good news for the sector at large. It safeguards the momentum that we built in the CWOC program.
The alternative was the program expiring at the end of March, which was hard for childcare providers to plan around.
We have a couple of expansion projects here at Rising Oaks that it was creating some risk in terms of whether those projects would be disrupted.
Prospero says the next 12 months should be used wisely to keep the system sustainable. She suggests things like a wage grid for early childhood educators.
So that's just one of the key pieces that we need to focus on. The other would be infrastructure funding to support building those new spaces and helping to reduce the red tape in those processes. So work to be done over this 12 months, but a good start for sure.
The agreement also includes $695 million in additional funding from Ottawa. But the money isn't enough to lower the average childcare cost closer to the $10 mark. So it will stay at the provincial average of around $19 and capped at $22.
I think we pay $22 a day. But if it was $10 a day, it would definitely help. Everything's becoming more and more expensive right now.
Heather Centerin, CTV News, Kitchener.
The federal prison ombudsman says weak policies, insufficient training, and a lack of specialized treatment are hindering the Correctional Service of Canada's efforts to deliver mental health care. In his latest annual report, Ivan Zinger says the prison service is ill-equipped to provide long-term mental health care to those experiencing acute psychiatric distress, suicidal thoughts, or chronic self-injury. He's calling for inmates with serious mental illness to be transferred to secure psychiatric hospitals, just like prisoners who need complex physical care are often sent out to get chemotherapy or surgery.
Dozens of paintings owned by the Hudson Bay Company will go up for auction next week.
Now, the public is getting its first look at a number of pieces formerly owned by a Canadian retail institution. CTV's Janice Golding has more.
This Adrian Aubert is a really great piece, Christmas at Morgan's. Morgan's was the department store.
Robert Heffel shows us some marquee pieces from the Hudson Bay Company's collection.
The Hudson's Bay commissioned well-known Canadian artists to paint historical scenes for their calendars, and they would keep the original calendar painting. And so these are some of the Canadian artists that they chose in the calendar paintings. And
27 fine art paintings from the historic company's 4,400-item collection that will be going to the highest bidder next week.
It's a fabulous collection. It's kind of documents the history of Canada, the development of the Hudson Bay, and it's a walk through Canadian art history and a walk through Canadian history.
Previews of the collection were held in cities across the country, with Toronto starting today.
It's like going to a beautiful gallery, only it's all very edited and curated, and it's absolutely stunning.
Among the favorites, Lights of a City Street, a picture of Toronto in the 1890s by Canadian artist Frederick Marlett Bell Smith.
the artist has put himself into the painting. This is the artist. These are the newspaper sellers. This is the artist's son.
And I'm old enough to remember the Big Bell Smith when it was at the at Simpsons in the Acadia Court. I often saw that painting. Everyone at my age saw the painting, so that's the one I'm really excited about seeing.
The piece garnering the most attention, however, is one of a series former UK Prime Minister Winston Churchill painted of Marrakesh.
He gave a Marrakesh painting to the U.S. president that later was sold for $1 million, but then it's sold. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie put it up for auction in their divorce, and it sold in Canadian dollars for $16 million.
The bidding will start at 3 p.m. next Wednesday at Heffel's dedicated auction ballroom in Yorkville.
This is how a modern-day fine art auction works. It's the merger between the traditional to the innovative, and this is the technology that pilots Heffel auction.
A long day with auctioneers dealing with telephone, online, and live bidding from 4 different catalogs.
We'll have our pen in our right hand and our gavel in our left, and we'll be looking for bids in the audience, but our device is here. It's a tremendous lot of fun.
Proceeds from ongoing auctions will help HBC's creditors recover some of the nearly $1 billion they're owed. Janice Golding, CTV News.
Still to come, sunroofs may be a fun feature, but if they break, it could come with a painful price tag. Details when we come back.
It appears more businesses are looking to hire temporary seasonal workers during the holidays. Indeed, Canada's report finds seasonal postings so far are up 12% from last year, though still weak relative to earlier years. The report's author says demand for seasonal workers generally mimics the broader state of the economy.
That's good news, especially for young people trying to find jobs. These are they're not, they're not perfect. They're not full-time jobs for over the year, but at least there's some seasonal jobs, chance to put some extra money in your pocket, or if you're young, put some money save for school and things like that. It is up over last year 12%, but it's still down from previous years. So we have a long way to go before we get back to maybe what normal is.
The report also shows more Canadians are searching for work, and the number of searches on Indeed that contain seasonal job-related terms has increased.
3 prominent American researchers are moving to the University of Toronto as the school intensifies its efforts to recruit top talent from south of the border. The new hires include a husband and wife team of economist Jacqueline Pless from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Mark Duggan from Stanford University. The other hire is Canadian-born astrophysicist Sarah Sager, also currently at MIT. U of T is also announcing a $24 million plan to recruit top young scholars from around the world.
A sunroof can be a great option for your vehicle, and now there are panoramic ones that cover a large portion of your roof.
Sunroofs occasionally have leaks or they can shatter if hit by an object, and they can be expensive to repair and replace. CTV's Pat Foran has this on Consumer Alert.
Sunroofs are a luxury option, and over the years they have gotten bigger and bigger. Mark Hiltz of Newmarket owns a 2020 Toyota Camry and says last month the sunroof malfunctioned.
My wife was out with the vehicle and it was a nice day, opened the sunroof, then got home, proceeded to try and close it. It wouldn't close.
Hiltz took the car to a Toyota dealership and the sunroof was given an inspection.
It has bound up. It looks like got an issue here binding up on the driver's side. So what happens in that case, it actually twists the frame of the glass. This headliner has to come out, and it's basically the whole roof that gets replaced.
Hiltz was told to replace the frame and related parts would be just over $22,500.
I thought for sure that maybe the decimal place was in the wrong spot. If a sunroof is $22,000, like I said, a motor or a transmission must be double that.
Instead of paying the massive bill, the dealer said they could seal the sunroof shut at a cost of almost $600.
They disconnected the power to it, and it's sealed shut, and now we can't use it.
The panoramic glass on the 2020 Camry does take up most of the roof, and a spokesperson for Toyota Canada told CTV News it suffered a deformation of the frame of the panoramic sunroof assembly caused by an external factor. The cost reflects the size of the unit and the complexity of the replacement procedure. Newer panoramic sunroofs are complex and have many moving parts, which can make them more expensive to repair. Hiltz says he just can't believe it costs over $22,000 to fix it.
This is just a piece of glass that opens. How can it cost that much for a sunroof?
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Blue Jays manager John Schneider is the runner-up for American League Manager of the Year. Schneider finished second behind Stephen Vaught of the Cleveland Guardians in voting by the Baseball Writers Association of America. Vaught picked up 17 of 30 first-place votes and had 113 points overall. Schneider had 10 first-place votes and 91 points overall. The other finalist was Dan Wilson of the Seattle Mariners. The last time a Blue Jays manager won the award was Bobby Cox back in 1985.
The Raptors got back in the win column in Brooklyn last night.
Leading by 11. Jakob looking for Scotty, bats it right back, and then the Pirtle power with the throwdown.
After falling behind early, the Raptors went ahead in the second quarter and stayed ahead on their way to a 119-109 victory. Brandon Ingham led with 25 points, and Emmanuel Quickley had 24. Their next game is tomorrow night in Cleveland.
And the Leafs lost more than just a game in Boston last night. Austin Matthews left the game in the second period with a lower body injury after taking a hit from behind. And Leafs goalie Anthony Stolarz didn't return after the first period with an upper body injury. The Leafs pulled within a goal in the third before falling 5-3. It's the Bruins' 7th straight win. The Leafs host the Kings tomorrow night.
One of hockey's biggest names is going to help promote Canada's men's soccer team as we prepare to co-host the World Cup. Sidney Crosby has been chosen to be an ambassador. Canada Soccer says he will help raise the profile of the Canadian team in the lead-up to next summer's tournament through social media platforms, public appearances, or creative collaborations. Actor Simu Liu and singer Shawn Mendes have also been chosen to be ambassadors. More celebrities will be announced at a later date.
Coming up, hundreds of bagpipers in Australia have set a new record, gathering to perform a rock and roll classic. Details after the break. A new world record was set in Australia today by hundreds of bagpipers. 374 pipers broke the record when they all played AC/DC's Rock and Roll Classic, It's a Long Way to the Top. Thousands crammed in the square in Melbourne for the attempt. The Australian Book of Records confirmed this beat a record set by 333 pipers in Bulgaria in 2012. Who knew?
Where are the Scottish bagpipers in Scotland? I'm sure that this is shocking to me. But
listen, I love the bagpipes, but that would have been very loud, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yes.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the weather for the rest of the day today. Chance of showers, still going to be a little bit windy out there, but milder. So if you want to take the dog for another walk this afternoon, I think it's going to be pretty good. Here's one more look at what you can expect. On the radar, there isn't a whole lot to show you imminently happening right now, but the chance of showers again with us through the afternoon and into the overnight as well. We're dropping to a low of about 1 degree. That's normal. Tomorrow's high 7 degrees, much closer to seasonal. The average temperature this time of year is about 8. And we're going to hang on to the breezy winds and the chance of showers until about Friday. The weekend, Saturday anyway, looks a little drier, but mostly cloudy. Nathan and Andrea.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Andrea Case.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.